to see you guys. Who are you? Hi, Bennett. I'm John. Um, Tell me what you. That's a really nice uniform. Well, Bennett, I want to talk to you. I'm the man for you. Answer any question ever. Are you in trouble? Man, I'm gonna tell you, he is one. Well, one of my is to prosecute violence necessary. Well, I'm gonna be. What do you? You don't want to wear. You don't want to wear this orange shirt.
Go ahead.
I'll help you with that. We'll go to your house tonight and arrest her by Are you? I hope you punched him in the nose. Don't ask children if you don't want the straight answer, buddy.
That's right. How you doing, sir?
Good, good. How are you?
No, we did find out through negotiations. Clowns were Edward was, but David.
I'll order they close see after a certain period of time.
I was
So they may not. You barking very quiet. You know that would be the front to the building. Do that. I don't remember. Is there anything you heard? But you know they'll get somebody else. Hey, Bob.
probably.
Hey, Dave. And they did they not the park? So does that mean got two other buildings?
As far as I know, our team is the street as
So February 11th. So it's their upgrade. Sort of. But I understand it's not. He knows.
Wait a second. I thought you said it was last year's.
And why did it interesting that was closed that period of time? Suddenly, there weren't any problems that he was blaming on truth. God, what a baby.
So you hear the thump 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 in that mic? If there's someone in there and they're not making the thump 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 in that, let them stay.
So have you? So have you killed Randy yet? Now that he's retired? He's no fool. He just. I made the mistake of allowing him to watch softball. And he called. I have no idea. I watched a lot of what his wife always called it. Shoe must be open. That's one of the funniest things I've ever seen on TV. And he gets into the message representing what he representing Catholic freedom. It's just weird case. And in the courtroom, something's going on, and he narrates his thoughts for you to know these things. It's just hilarious. Go home and kill Randy.
Joey did 100 squats.
Good Lord. Now,
Of course, I had just done it.
Real good.
I spent the weekend before last going 10 days late, hanging on to that leaf blower. Late Sunday, I couldn't quit vibrating.
That should be just a normal extension. I'm gonna blow a bunch of hot air.
That's where I make my real money. It's my wife paid me for all this work. Big bucks.
John was leaving town the other day, and I had to call him. Happy trail.
Oh, yeah.
But I said his,
He heard I was going out of town and you would miss that opportunity for
well,
4
no,
days.
actually, they said he was going to have a check, 6-month checkup. That's right. And I knew that's not right. But I know he's going to, because he put one in there.
And of course, being a lawyer, I've already ruined it.
I guess we're in the same boat.
That's right. Somebody's got to do it, and I think you're perfect people. I can't afford to be your friend. I'm John Doug.
Mr. Madden, can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
Okay.
The mayor banished me over here and said that I have to tell the truth. I've been in the outskirts. That's right. And for the first time. You sure do.
Yeah, I got moves.
Hey. Oh, somebody's mic's on. So fun.
Want my gavel too? You know what we do with this? Right at 7 o'clock, I have to go to call everybody to order. And the ones that don't hush, I throw it at them. I don't do that.
If Brady got to do that at the State House.
Should have pulled your chair up here. I put him up here. Yeah, I know a couple of people were supposed to have been here and said they were going to sign up. He wants to sign up. Sign up. She'll talk you through it, then I'll recognize you. Yeah. Yeah. She's okay with it? Good. Tell her I won't drop one on top of her. Good luck with that. It's those little Chinese toys. There we go.
Mr. Madden, can you hear me?
Gotcha. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. There we go.
Thank you.
like research?
I don't know.
Hola. Just Ducky, how are you? How you doing, Miss King?
Just lovely. Thank you.
Think he had a work thing, maybe?
Oh,
I'll call to order our regularly scheduled monthly council meeting at approximately 7:05 PM on February 21st, 2022. Appreciate everyone being here. Let the records reflect that, better do this by, see, Councilman Matney, Councilwoman King, Councilwoman Allgood, and Councilwoman Kuznar and myself are here in chamber. Councilman Craig and Reynolds are attending via Zoom due to attenuating circumstances. For them, all the privileges of a duly elected public official for the city of Mauldin. There, thank you in the audience for attending, especially our famous Officer Bennett. We appreciate him being here tonight. We will keep him up past his bedtime. We'll be good there. Our invocation, pledge allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. Those who wish to pray, please bow your heads with me at this time. Dear Heavenly Father, we are forever thankful for the many blessings you bestowed upon us. Tonight, we're also thankful for our young Officer Bennett and his family who are able to join us tonight. Many praises for this young man. I pray that we all continue to be blessed, to be free of illness, and to be joyful and kind. It's in your heavenly name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand with me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, first on our agenda, we are honored to have with us tonight representatives from the Make-A-Wish Foundation. If you wouldn't mind, come to the podium, mic's on, so you could speak clearly there. Would appreciate it. By now, you probably have enough experience speaking through the mask, so let's get close to the microphone.
Thank you, Mayor Merritt. Thank you, City Council, for allowing us to be here tonight as a small part of your meeting. I'm Misty Farmer. I'm the President and CEO of Make-A-Wish South Carolina. And this young man needs no introduction. This is Officer Bennett and his family. And we have with us Caitlin, our Senior Wish Manager, as well. We simply wanted to come here tonight to express our profound gratitude to everyone who played a role in Bennett's special day as he became a police officer just a few weeks ago. Wishes, as you all know, cannot happen with the support of our community, without the support of our community. That is true financially, as we rely on our donors to provide the dollars that it takes to make these wishes a reality. And in this case, it certainly was true logistically. When we found out that Bennett's wish was to be a police officer, we certainly don't have the ability to do that for him, but you all did. And Chief Miller, from the day that we met with you all initially to pitch this, the answer was yes from the get-go before we even got the question out of our mouth. And after that, every single thing that we dreamt of for his day, it was yes, over and over. And you guys brought so much to his experience. And so we want to say thank you to all of you. Chief Miller, your entire team was phenomenal. Officer Madden, you played a huge role in this, as did Mayor Merritt in presenting him the key to the city that day. And the entire wish experience for Bennett was, I think, beyond his wildest imagination. He certainly got to come to, everything came to fruition, including catching a thief that day, which was just so happened to be a robbery taking place that day, coincidentally. And so we want to thank you for that and reiterate that the power of the community made his wish possible. So thank you all so much. The other thing that we really truly like to educate people about at every opportunity is that these wish experiences for our kids and their families are so much more than just a brief moment in time, whether it be a day to be a police officer or a trip somewhere. Truly wishes have a lasting impact on these kids. And this is something that Bennett and his family will remember for the rest of his life. And so, as a testament to that, I'd like to invite his mom, Lindsay, to come up and say a few words of gratitude to you guys as well.
I just wanted to say thank you so much. It was such an amazing day for him. Talking about it nonstop and trying to arrest his sister every single day. And I can't express like how much it means to us. He's been through so much, and to have such a special day for him, Mayor Merritt, Miller, Officer Madden, and Make-A-Wish, it's just been amazing. He's still talking about it a month later, and I know that he will remember it forever. So I just want to say thank you so much. It was such an awesome day for him and for our family.
Thank you. Thank you.
One final thing, we would like to invite Chief Miller to come up real quick, and we have just a small token of our gratitude that we'd like to present to you. Oh.
Do it again. Also, for those that did attend and brave the cold, I know I saw Councilwoman King there, bundled up. And Councilman Matney, I don't know if he was really bundled up. He was just, Councilman Matney, he was there, but the wind was biting that day. So really appreciate everyone that came out. I recognizing someone that was there. I'm sorry. I think, and you were there. Mr. Madden can't show was there for a little while also. So thank you for allowing us to participate in what's just such a wonderful day and fantastic young man. Thank you for allowing us to do that. And our police force is always, that's why I've been here all my life. Didn't have to worry about anything. They're great. So thank you, guys. I'm sure public safety will. Our next item on the agenda is our reading and approval of minutes. We had a city council meeting of January 18th, 2022. What's the pleasure of council?
Move for approval.
If a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Kuzma? Is there any discussions, corrections, clarifications on those minutes as submitted? Ms. King?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to note that I was not present due to a family emergency, so I will not be voting on the minutes.
Thank you, Ms. King. Records note that. Hearing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 2, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Next is special called council meeting of February the 15th, 2022 minutes. Pleasure, council.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, clarifications, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Now we come to our first public comment period. For those who signed up, and I know Cindy gave me the list and yes, Mr. Greg Carter. Okay, Thank you. Let the records reflect Mr. Carter deferred his comments to another meeting. Okay, that's the only one I had signed up on public comment. Our next is report from our city administrator, Mr. Before I get there, let me be sure I want to recognize everybody who was here also. Our city administrator, Mr. Madden's here, various department heads are here. Our city attorney is also here, Mr. Dugan. So let the records note that also. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Madden, back to you.
Mayor, members of council, I do not have a report this evening.
Thank you. A report from standing committees, finance and policy, Mr. Reynolds via Zoom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and rest of council. First, thank you for letting me join this evening via Zoom. I'm sure our Officer Bennett would like to know I'm still serving my last day of COVID jail today, so we'll be joining you in person next time. So I did have one quick item I wanted to bring up for you guys to be aware of. The city of Mauldin received our second consecutive distinguished budget award. This is from the Government Finance Officers Association for last year's budget, which is the 2021-22 budget. This is again the second time we've received that. Certainly it's an achievement for the city, an achievement for council, staff, and just wanted to point that out that again, this is a consecutive year we've won that. So it's a great award, and that was it.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Holly is behind us working the cameras right now. So that's why she's there. She was trying to find the mute button for you, Mr. Reynolds, but she couldn't. Just kidding. She was not. But she nodded her head. Thank you. Public safety, Ms. King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to echo some of the comments that were made earlier this evening and thank Chief Miller and his entire team for the amazing day that Officer Bennett had with Make-A-Wish. As usual with the city of Mauldin, it was a team effort, not only from the police department, but we had representation from fire. We had our fire trucks out there, our firemen out there, no public Public Works was responsible for some cleanup efforts and before event setting up. So again, it's just a true testimony of the way the city works together in these departments. It was an amazing day. Chief Miller and Officer Madden, I just can't thank you enough for it's hard to make my mouth drop and have a mic drop moment, but that day truly was, even in the cold, right, Mayor?
Yes.
So thanks again.
Thank you, Ms. King. Public Works, Mr. Crayland, via Zoom also.
Yeah, I'd just like to also thank you for allowing me to participate remotely. I am out of state due to work. So, and I appreciate the opportunity to continue to serve. I have nothing to report though at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Crayland. Have a safe trip back. Economic Planning and Development, Mr. Matney.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Broad actually emailed me today the report that he would present at the EPD committee meeting in March, but I wanted to go ahead and read it tonight and have it on a little bit of a larger stage, just to go ahead and have it out there. He says, I want to express my gratitude and appreciation for the support and care of the EPD committee and its members over the last 6 years. Your encouragement and engagement have made this department successful and have provided the citizens of Mauldin a great opportunity for growth and community connectivity for years to come. In this, my final report as your Community Development Director, find the following. Our department remains in great shape. Our budget remains below the desired limit as it has for the last 6 years. The Lobby Plaza renovation of the Cultural Center remains on track and will be another beautiful addition to its programming. You have a great staff in place, beginning with Kiara Hyder, Center Director, Jeannie Harmon, Marketing, Tim St. Clair, Theater Director, and Gina McAtee, our new Events Coordinator. They are the ones who have made the day-to-day functions of our department what it is today. My appreciation to them for their dedication and commitment to the city of Mauldin and its citizens. Finally, I have been honored to serve you and continue to pray for the future success and health of our city. I am very thankful for the many friends and kindness of this community and its citizens. Mauldin is truly a wonderful home with many gracious friends. Much joy, Van Broad, Community Development Director, City of Mauldin. That is our report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Appreciate that. Building codes, Ms. Kuzner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to report that we had 4 new business openings in January.
Ma'am. And from Recreation, Mr. Allgood.
So the Recreation Committee met last month, or earlier this month, I should say. And within that, we learned that the egg drop is going to return, although on a smaller scale. It was canceled last year due to COVID precautions. The budget looks good. Basketball was a success. And when it comes to our spring sports, I actually got something updated like a second ago from our recreation director. All of our spring sports are ahead of where they were last year. One of the most notable ones I would say is that with the baseball, we had 250 participants last year. We have 345 this year. So that's a significant gain in that department, as well as with lacrosse having 35 kids last year up to 55 this year. And back on Monday, which was just yesterday, or not, no, it was Friday, when I asked for this material, we were behind on flag football. We've already now surpassed flag football, and we still have we have 1 more week to go. 1 more week to go. And aside from that, we have a parking lot project, which will be discussed this evening.
Mr. Allgood. Next item is unfinished business ordinances on second reading. Ms. Miller. Miller, Ms. King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion to approve on second reading.
Second.
Motion from Ms. King, a second from Mr. Matney. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Craylor.
I'm not sure we were able to hear it through. I'm not sure if the microphone was on to actually hear what we were voting on.
Okay, we are on the agenda item 7A, which is the second reading of the ordinance concerning restricting trucks along Hamby Drive.
Mayor, if it's okay, could Cindy Miller repeat?
Yep.
the ordinance?
This is an ordinance amending Chapter 38 of the City of Mauldin Code of Ordinances to add a new article regulating the operation of certain trucks on designated streets in the city and other matters related thereto.
That one come out okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We had a motion by Ms. King with a second by Mr. Matney. Open discussion at this point. The only thing that I've got, Ms. King, is to be sure that I was asked by our attorney to note section 38-173, subsection B. This is an ordinance we're doing to get this started, but in the future, as the city might have additional roads or streets that might need to be addressed in the same manner, we can do those by resolution, and it wouldn't require 2 readings. So just a note on that. So be sure everybody, council, is aware. This is the ordinance to establish this. Once it's established, any future ones can come up via just a resolution, which would only require 1 reading. Any other comments, questions? Hear none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the ordinance on second reading for the restricting trucks along Hamby Drive, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hear none, the motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Ms. King. Next item, new business, Ms. Miller.
We have 3 ordinances for first reading tonight, and the first one is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by Zenith Holdings LLC and located at 220 Fowler Circle. by 100% petition method and to establish a zoning classification of R15 residential. And this tract touches the corner of Sunset Park.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. From Business Code, Ms. Kuzner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, this property was previously brought before council for annexation and rezoning by Zenith Real Estate. At that time, they were seeking to put townhomes on this tract, and their request was denied. So tonight, we have a request to annex the property into Mauldin and to rezone it to R15, as the applicant anticipates developing this property for 28 detached single-family homes with a starting price of $450,000. They expect New Style Communities will be the builder for this project and would establish an age-targeted community for adults 55 and up. So at this time, I would like to make a motion to approve the annexation and rezoning of 220 Fowler Circle.
A motion from Ms. Kuzner. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second, Mr. Matney. Is there any discussion, questions? If I'm allowed, I'd like to, Mr. Deerhuff, if you would come up, I've got 2 or 3 questions I'd like to ask, please. You might have to defer to Colton or Jay. Thank you, sir. First question I have, and I like the price points that are being proposed for this and the lower number of units. And all we have seen is the preliminary things that are before us in our packet tonight. What safeguards would be in place or are in place to be sure that the cost of these homes remains in that $400,000, $450,000 range and doesn't drop back to $250,000?
So there's no guarantees from a staff perspective or position. It's entirely up to the applicant what they'll develop. As far as what the city allows, what it allows in that zoning. So there's nothing here that the city is doing that holds them to that. It's really going out on a position of trust, I guess.
The second question then was, I noticed on the plat that we've got for us tonight, the main entrances are close to entering that Fowler Circle curve that goes back as you get closer to Garda's former property. Is there anything with the city that's going to require left turn, right turn lanes in or out of this subdivision?
We do typically require them to be able to turn left and right out of the subdivision. Now, I believe that Fowler Circle is a DOT roadway. Your understanding too?
We just had a discussion, assuming
So let me repeat that so that those on Zoom can hear what we just heard in the chambers. So the project engineer for this project indicated that this roadway is either a DOT roadway or county roadway. We'll have to confirm that. But either way, they're going to have to meet the clear distance requirements that one or the other who has jurisdiction over the roadway will require. They will require them to have some line of sight so that if you're turning out of that subdivision, you are blindsided by oncoming traffic.
Okay. The last question I was asked to ask was units on this diagram, units 12 through 23 appear to be on the downhill side, so the water flow would come from the upper. As far as I know, water still flows downhill, but it would flow downhill there toward the creek on the back. I couldn't see clearly where the detention pond or retention pond, whichever one it is, fits on that diagram. So how do we keep from hearing that water is flowing into the houses?
Mayor, if it's all right with you, I'll defer to the engineer to be able to answer more about the stormwater.
Okay.
Jay Martin with Arbor Land Design, 49 Greenland Drive in Greenville. If I understand your question correctly, you were trying to identify where the stormwater pond is located on the property to ascertain that the water is leaving the site without being controlled before it does such.
Yeah, but I'm also concerned that there's no water flowing into the houses on the site.
There is no water flowing into the houses on the site. That will not be something that occurs and would be called at the Greenville LDD review. But the current stormwater pond is shown behind lots 11 through 14.
Okay. That's this one. All the questions I've been asked to ask. Matty.
Thank you, Mayor. Jay, just to go ahead and let you know, I pulled up Street Finder, DOT Street Finder, and it says that it's not a DOT controlled road. So maybe that provides some answer.
So the county will dictate those things. They're typically a 25 by 25 site triangle, but we've had discussions with the neighbors. We go through this, and when we bring this back to preliminary plat, we will definitely look at the site distances that SCDOT does establish. I think it would be more appropriate, especially in a reverse curve, to do so when it goes to planning commission. That, of course, is not something that is part of rezone, but when it is considered by the planning commission and as it's considered by Public Works in Greenville, because it's a county road, technically half of it will be county, half of it will be city now, but we'll make sure that we provide enough site easement that you can get out of the subdivision without having access.
Thank you very much. And Mayor, just one other question, and this may be one better suited for Mr. Miller because it goes to your initial question about assurances of home sizes based on what's being presented today. So, Mr. Miller, I don't know what y'all paid for the property, but I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I think this is going to go to help the mayor pass along information from some concerned folks out that way, that you don't anticipate the scope of this project changing from what you're presenting, because whatever it is that Zenith has paid, y'all have identified what it's going to take to get the number that you need out of that project. And that means that you're looking at R15 and you're looking at single family detached on these R15 lots that are going to be a certain price point to get you what you need. And that will prevent the scope from changing. Am I correct in assuming any of that?
Yes, sir, absolutely. And for the record, and those not present, my name is Colton Miller. I live at 213 Heartland Place. And yes, sir, Councilor Matney, that is absolutely correct. In fact, Council, the way that this request works as far as us projecting the home price is a uniform requirement for annexation petitions, as you sure know. We're no different in that setting, saying what these are. Naturally, this would be borne out of the finances that we paid for the contract, but also based on what New Style always does in their homes. I think you can look at all of their communities and they all would be in this price range. Furthermore, Zenith would be more than happy to an executive session. I'm sure New Style would agree to this as well, to show you our contract such that would necessitate, as Mr. Matney astutely pointed out, price point that these homes would be selling for.
Thanks, Colton. That's all I had, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Matt.
One of the questions I just wanted to ask, if we go back to the November 15th meeting, it talked about opposition from neighborhood property owners. And we had someone sign the public comments sheet who just decided to defer until the next comment section. But I feel like I should ask, what kind of feedback have you received from the community, and in what ways did you receive that feedback?
I'm going to answer that question, and Greg's sitting right here, so we'll make sure that we don't misstate. But the process tonight just starts with a first reading. And so we are going to have a meeting with Greg before the second reading. And we're going to look at the layout that we have proposed in taking into consideration the items that would mitigate his concerns along his adjacent property. And if we come back for second reading, and then he would appear at public comment if we haven't done so, that would be one point that he would be heard. The second point that he would be heard, because what we're really voting on is just R15 classification. After that, we're going to have to come with the actual design for the subdivision that goes before Planning Commission, and they're going to have a public hearing there, and they're going to hear the matters if we haven't taken care of it at that point as well. So there's two stop gaps we have before we get to that point, and we're planning to have a meeting with him early next week to make sure we're mitigating those.
Councilmember Allgood, I wanted to also add that we've had individual neighborhood meetings for both Fowler Circle, Rose Circle, and then a joint neighborhood meeting most recently for both parcels of land. I have an attendee list that I'd be happy to pass along to you. As far as concerns go, mainly the vast majority were educational related. Simply, what is the nature of this request? I'd be happy to paraphrase Mr. Terry Thompson, who lives off of Plant Drive, Plant Street. Those are a little bit confusing, but it's the one that adjoins Rose Circle first to the east. His reaction was to say that I'm in support of the project because I would much rather what goes next to me be 55 plus community that generates a third of the traffic during AM, PM, as you noted during the committee, rather than what he's seeing, coming towards him, which are storage, apartments, etc. So I think, to paraphrase him, he would be in support. But to do justice to those who were skeptical, those would be concerns such as, the boundary related concerns, as we've spoken with Mr. Carter about. Mr. Carter and I walked the property, our adjoining boundary together. I think the day before we had our committee meeting together. We've had a number of phone calls and an additional meeting to discuss ways that we can work together. Our intention, as we've expressed to Mr. Carter, is to be great neighbors, to both provide an asset to the city and to those around them who are not in the city, to feel like they are getting something that is an asset to their community. And so, yeah, we are 100%. I don't think it'd be a stretch for Mr. Carter to agree that we are totally on board with working with him to ensure that all stakeholders feel that they've gotten a good deal. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, the first time Zenith came up with the proposal, I was not in support of it because it didn't answer some major questions for me. One being value of homes, two being volume of homes, and three being the sewer. In my opinion, this development does a much better job meeting what I believe is good for the long-term growth of the city, and that is higher value and lower volume. So as I look at this is something I can support moving forward at minimum on first reading. The sewer system is obviously something that is going to be no matter what. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Reynolds. Anyone else? Okay. All those in favor of the motion for annexation of the initial zoning of R15 for the property on 220 Fowler Circle, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimous. Ms. Miller B.
Next is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by David Cumbia and Karen Cumbia and located at 110 Rose Circle by 100% petition method, and to establish a zoning classification of R12 residential for said property. And this property is adjacent to the Midgard Reliance Self-Storage Facility on West Butler Road.
Thank you. Out of BDS, Ms. Kuzma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This property is also the Zenith Real Estate anticipates developing this property for 34 detached single-family homes with a starting price of $450,000. They expect also New Style Communities will be the builder for this project and would establish an age-targeted community for adults age 55 and up. So at this time, I would like to make a motion to approve the annexation of 110 Rose Circle with a zoning of R12.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Matney. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion for annexation of 110 Rose Circle with zoning classification of R12, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. The motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Kuzner. Ms. Miller.
Last ordinance for tonight is an ordinance approving an intergovernmental agreement with the Metropolitan Sewer Subdistrict and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. This comes out of Public Works. So Mr. Kraling.
Mayor, before we continue, need to remind council that I have a professional conflict of interest and a recusal letter on file, and I will remove myself from the room for the duration of this agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Matney. Let the record reflect Mr. Matney has recused himself from this item and has left the chamber. Okay, thank you. Mr. Kraling.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion for the mayor to authorizing the mayor to continue to complete the agreement between Metropolitan Sewer Sub-District and the city of Mauldin, as stated in this ordinance. I mean, in this, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Kraling. This is on first reading. So is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Kuzner. Is there any discussion? Question I have, if you may, is this agreement from Metro been reviewed and I won't call it approved, been reviewed by our city attorneys?
Yes.
There.
Did that work? What I just said for the council members who are not in attendance in the audience is that we went through and made substantial revisions to the proposal from Metro. And their response was they agreed to every one of our proposed changes, which I believe made this agreement as good as we can hope for. I know that for all of us, it's not what we would ideally like, but it sets up a good framework where everybody knows where they stand and how to handle any new annexations which impact Metro. So we were able to, in a very pleasant way, reach a good agreement with them under the circumstances while holding our noses.
Mr. Dugan, and for the record, that was our city attorney, Mr. John Dugan, who gave us that explanation of the process they went through with our agreement. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, just a comment.
Yes, Mr. Reynolds.
I think, certainly to follow up what Mr. Duggan alluded to is trying to be a good neighbor to a special purpose local special purpose district. And, as I think sometimes the best neighbor is the one that you put the fence up between. And I think this is probably a great chance for the city of Mauldin as well as Metro to establish barriers and establish a framework to work together moving forward. So begrudgingly, this is something I can support as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Reynolds. Anyone else? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to authorize the mayor to sign the intergovernmental agreement with Metro Connects in the city of Mauldin, say aye.
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 Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries in 6-0. Okay. Chamber as we speak. Okay, let the records reflect Mr. Matney has rejoined us in chamber. Okay, the next item on the agenda, standing committee items, is coming out of public safety. Ms. King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have before us a guaranteed maximum price amendment for the construction of the new fire station and police substation. This GMP would include costs associated with stormwater, HVAC, and construction cost of the new fire department. So this time I'd like to make a motion for approval of the guaranteed maximum price amendment for the new fire station.
Thank you, Ms. King. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Allgood? Is there any discussion? I would be remiss if I didn't ask the question that I was raised on when I joined this chamber. Is there a not to exceed clause?
Mr. Madden, I think you can verify that the GMP is in fact that, a guaranteed maximum price, and it will not exceed that number. Mr. Madden shaking his head, yes, ma'am, that's correct, I think.
So we do have the comfort of knowing this time it won't exceed again.
Additionally, the representatives from Clover Leaf and Stewart Cooper Newell are present if anyone has any particular questions they would like to ask.
Anyone have any questions?
Or they, excuse me, I think we're.
Okay.
Yeah, unless you want Drew to come and speak to the GMP.
I'm good with what I read, so I'm good there. Mr. Reynolds, Mr. Crayland, any questions?
No, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you. All right, then we're good. No other questions? All those in favor of the motion of approval of the guaranteed price amendment for the construction of the fire station, police substation, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Next item is 122. Stormwater is coming from PW, Mr. Fraley. Mr. Crayland, you still with us?
I'm sorry, I can't hear anything. Could you please repeat?
The next item on the agenda is the stormwater improvement at 122 Sunset Drive. Would you like to handle that?
Yes. And I apologize. Evidently, a live band has just started outside my window, and every time they open the door, it gets very loud in here. So I apologize if music comes through. And please, Mr. Madden, please correct me. This is just to inform council that we will be doing stormwater, the improvement at 122 Sunset Drive at the request of the homeowner, and that person will be providing the actual materials. We'll be this is just to inform council. There is nothing to vote on. Is that correct, Mr. Madden?
Yes and no. So it's correct that this is to inform council of the project, but council action is needed to approve the agreement that's associated with this project.
Okay, understood. Okay, so then at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement for the stormwater improvement on 122 Sunset Drive.
That's good enough to receive the funds. That's all you need. All right, I have a motion from Mr. Crayland to approve the project and the attendant agreements. Is there a second?
Second.
The second, Ms. King. Is there any discussion? Here none. All those in favor of the motion to approve the project and the attendant agreements for 122 Sunset Drive, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Here none, the motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Crayland. Next item is recreation. Mr. Allgood.
Thank you, Mayor. As I alluded to early on, we have a parking lot project that is here for consideration. There's one correction here. It should be October 18th, 2021 was the meeting that was held, not 2022, but that's here nor there. The parking lot that is down at Springfield Park was originally paved in the 1970s and since then has received several Band-Aids. We ripped up the asphalt and looked and see what was underneath, and it's calling for additional work. The recreation director brought to our attention that there are two options on the table that came back. And I would actually like to invite him to come and speak, talk about the two different types of things. And Matthew, if you have any thoughts as well, I'd love to get your thoughts in terms of what these two options are.
In front of you, got two options. We got the other one this past week. I think it's one for 191,700. That's basically a cement. It's going to mix in. They're going to plow in with the old soil that's in there, and hopefully that will harden it up. I talked to the contractor this week, or end of last week, and he felt certain that will do the job. Certainly you can go with the other one that we initially gave you. That's where they're going to take the bad soil and come and put some crush and run. Me and Matthew, the Public Works Director, Fleeman, were out on site. You can see some pictures that is in your packet that the truck's rolling over, and basically they just fill up a dump truck full of crush and run, and it's just it was sinking. It was like a water bed. That's the best way I could put it. And it's just years and years of, I think the city has been frugal with their money, which is a good thing, but we could have re-asphalted over, but I talked to the contractors as well about that, and the cracks would have came back within 4 or 5 years. So that's what we've been doing. We've been Band-Aiding it, and felt like that we needed to take it all the way down to the surface, because that's what we did at City Park. We had the same issue as there. We had root problems at City, had root problems at Springfield. So that's kind of why we went down to the surface initially on both sites.
Mayor, at this time, I'd like to make a motion that council approve option 3, which is the cost option at $191,700 for this project.
A motion from Mr. Allgood. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Kuzner, is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for clarification, coming out of committee, we were looking at two options as well, obviously, but the first option being the one that was stripping 12 inches of soil down, doing the Schedule 40, and then the crush and run on top of that, and then paving on top of that. Is that to make sure I'm clear on what we're looking at now, this would not have the same bed as what we discussed coming out of committee? I believe the comment Mr. Matney made was he loved that base or something. So I want to clarify that are we doing the same thing or changing what was coming out of committee?
I'm all about that base, Mr. Reynolds.
You notice I got that I'm wrong on purpose for you. Softball.
Yeah, Mr. Reynolds, you're correct. The option that was presented and discussed at committee was the more expensive option. Would essentially just add a mix of rock and stone and just make sure the base would pass the proof roll. This option that's presented to you is a concrete mix that they would be using. It will achieve the same result. It's just less costly. It would pass the proof roll and would be warranted by the contractor.
So that was my next question, is whether or not the contractor is still going to warranty the craftsmanship. So, okay, is this a process, because I'm not familiar with this particular process, is this a process that Mr. Fleeman is familiar with?
Councilman Reynolds, you hear me? The
Yes,
process
sir.
recommended is what we use for the worst roadways as part of the city paving. The process called CMRB, it's concrete mix-based reclamation. The process will work to solidify the soils in place with like a Portland cement mixture, creating a solid subbase for which they can pave upon.
Okay, good enough for me. Thank you, Mr. Fleeman.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Mrs. King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just need a clarification on the financial impact, as the request in our packet is to approve a change order for 268,000. Is that the other option? And then the motion was for the 191?
Yes, Ms. King, the motion out of committee was for the 268, but since the committee meeting, staff received a quote for a third option that's $191,000 approximately. And so what's being requested and recommended by staff is for the third option. So the change order would be for $191,000, approximately $191,000. And it would be funded through hospitality accommodation tax fund balance.
Thank you, Mr. Madden, for the clarification on that.
Mr. Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So either option, is it going to last the same amount of time, 10, 20 years, 5 years? Do we know?
There's no way, Ms. Kuzner, to say, it'll be a decade or 15 years. Typically, with either one of the methods, you would expect to get at least a decade before you have to go back and either mill it down or repave it. It's typically the amount of time you would get from a road that's being repaved. But this would be warranted by the contractor for at least 1 year. If council just decided to just repave it, they wouldn't warranty it, but it would be repaved. You probably would see cracking in less time than you would if you did it with either option 1 or 3.
Okay, so option 1 and option 3, will they equally last about the same amount of time? Do we know?
Yes, they'll last about the same time.
Thank you.
My question got answered. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Madden. On the question I've got is that option 3 does not show a proof roll test after the steps 1 and 2, whereas option 1, they were going to go back with the proof roll test. Will there be a proof roll test if we use option 3?
Yes. No proof roll test? Yeah, please.
As part of the CMB process, once the material cures, it's like a concrete slab. So industry standard is not to have a proof roll. We could certainly ask the contractor, but it's not a loose soil, so the test itself is really not applicable. But we certainly can have the process done.
If you would like to, Mayor, we can request that it's proof rolled again.
Technically, it's not necessary. I'm okay with it. I just noticed option 1 asked for a proof roll because I don't think we were doing the entire parking lot based on what little I read, was wherever they needed it. You wasn't gonna take 10 or 12 inches off the entire parking lot, just those areas that the roof roll failed, which is not all. You didn't go up every square inch of the parking lot roof roll.
We did approximately 50%.
If it's concrete, roof roll is not necessary with that. Okay, with y'all happy with that. So what we've got is the option of $191,700 change order on top of the $225,000 we had approved on October the 18th. Is that where we're at, Mr. Old?
Correct.
Got those numbers. All right, any other questions? We have this in form of a not to exceed. Just ask. What we have is a motion for approval of a change order for the Springfield Park parking lot paving project, utilizing option 3 in the amount of $191,700 additional. Favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimous. Okay, we are now back to our second public comment period. No one signed up for it. We're good to go on that. Council concerns. Mr. Madden.
Not a concern, but more of an acknowledgement that our mayor turned another year older. I don't know if he turned another year wiser on this weekend. And Mr. Cumlander, Bart, where are you? Bart got older too last week on Thursday.
Yeah, he got older the day before I did. 2 days before I did.
That's all, Mayor. Happy birthday to y'all.
And I would also note probably the same questionable, did he get any older or wiser? He's got small kids. He's got to get wiser and wiser every day. Okay. Thank you very much. And let the records reflect that Joel Ann made me a pumpkin pie for my birthday and I picked it up. You don't have to put that in minutes. Thank you. Any other council concerns? And no, I am not sharing my pumpkin pie.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Matney mentioned it at the end of last meeting in talking reference to Project Kick, and I want to follow up this one as well to keep the voice out there that I look forward to how the city as well as Greenville Triumph can look for other opportunities to move forward with what can be a fantastic project for the city. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Matney.
Just wanted to remind everybody one more thing, that Mauldin is currently hosting Dorman in the 5A basketball playoffs. And with 2:13 to go in the third quarter, Dorman is only up by 2.
Oh,
48-46.
good deal. Thank you, Mr. Matney. Go Mavs, as always. Anything else? Hear none, what's the council for an adjournment?
So moved.
Motion from Ms. King, second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Matney. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, we stand adjourned at approximately 8:06.